Hey guys, it's Claire, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about being a mum and having a spiritual practice, or trying to develop a spiritual practice, and how I have found that. Now, if you guys are discovering my channel for the first time, I do make videos here about law of attraction, spirituality, motherhood, minimalism, and things of that nature. So if you're interested in any of those kind of things, please be sure to subscribe and hit that bell button so you are notified when I release a new video, which is every Wednesday. So I'm just going to jump straight into today's video. So becoming a mum is such a huge transition in your life. It's probably the biggest transformation that you will go through, because you are suddenly going from this person that all you need to care about and think about is yourself, and you're always constantly thinking about yourself, and you are the biggest picture in your life. And that all changes when you have a baby, where you are now suddenly responsible for keeping someone else alive, someone else's well-being, mental, emotional and physical. You've got to make decisions about their health, their education, about vaccinating or not vaccinating, formula feeding or breastfeeding, how you diaper them, how you clean them, what products you use. The amount of thought that goes into everything that's required to be a mother is so huge and so life-taking over. It is no wonder that you know, if you're not a mum and you see people who have children on their Facebook or whatever only ever talk about their kids, or only ever post pictures about their kids, and people are always like, when I have kids I'm never gonna do that, like blah blah blah, I'm still my own person, etc etc. And I mean, eventually you might be, but to understand how, you can never understand how all-consuming it is to be a mother to small children. They require so much of your attention, and learning, you're in the new stages of learning this new path that you're on, and you're learning how to balance who you were / who you now are and your role as a mum, which is like a 24/7 thing. So it's almost impossible to not. That is the reason why most mums are completely consumed with their child and only ever post photos and stuff of their child, is because that is their life. And that is not to say, that's not to put anyone off, because it's wonderful, it's amazing, all wrapped up into exhaustion and all the rest of it, but there is like a layer to that goes into this identity crisis of losing yourself in this finding yourself as a mother process. There's this process of, there's this whole trying to keep parts of you that you were when you were just a single person, and also discovering now what things you like. And because we're ever-changing beings and we're aging, so obviously our interests before we have children are not going to be the same after, but we actually have to try and make the time to find them after. And then a whole nother level of that is your spirituality, and trying to maintain a spiritual practice, and whether that might be maybe trying to start a spiritual practice or to grow your spiritual practice. It can be really difficult and overwhelming to try and figure out how that works in this new dynamic of being a mum. So I'll definitely do another video if you guys are interested in kind of the like identity part of becoming a mum and finding what you're so interested in, how to look after yourself and things like that. But specifically I wanted to touch on having like a spiritual practice and the importance of that as well. And yeah, so I kind of hope that makes sense. Like, I'm just winging it here, but yeah. So for me, the first, I want to say, I'm gonna be real, the first like 10 months were really difficult to stick to my spiritual practice of meditating, and I really kind of like slipped a lot in the beginning. One thing that I had to come to realization with is what was working for me previously was not the same tools that were going to work for me this time, in this stage of my life of being a mum to a young child. So meditating twice a day for 20 minutes was just unattainable. It was not something that I was able to stick to. I didn't have the time. When I would try to meditate for that long, I would get too tired and fall asleep. And yeah, I just was feeling like I was failing, and because I was putting an expectation on myself of that, I really struggled to feel like I was getting anywhere. So one of the first steps for me in picking up my spiritual practice again in after motherhood was actually listening to some books. So I gave up meditating for a while. I just kind of let it go by the wayside and accepted the fact that right now it just was not working for me, and it was not something that I wanted to keep pushing because it was just making me resent it. So what I did find most beneficial though was reading books, and this is not actually, you know, reading a book is not something that you really have time for as a mother, but listening to audiobooks was, because especially in the early days when you are stuck breastfeeding for so long, or if you need to go out walking to get your baby to sleep, or if you have to carry your baby around so that they sleep in your chest, listening to an audiobook was just an absolute lifesaver for me. It was a way that I could feel productive with the time. It was a way to get the knowledge and like the understanding of whatever it is I was learning in, while also being able to do other things at the same time. So for me, that was such a great way for me to still continually feel like I was learning and growing and understanding my spiritual beliefs on a deeper level by reading more about them and things like that. But it wasn't something that I necessarily had to try and section out extra time in my day for. So that is definitely the number one thing for me that I found most helpful. The next thing was self-love, and understanding the importance of self-love for my spirituality, and the importance of taking time in every single day for myself and making that a spiritual practice. So even if it was something like sitting down and having a cup of tea, or having a shower, especially in the beginning, for I would say the first 6 months, showers was all that I had time for. I did not have time for baths, and if I did have time for baths, then I definitely did not see that baths as being the top priority over doing all the other things that needed to be done. So having showers was great for me, and I used these little examples that I just talked about as times to be mindful. And so I would sit down and I would try not to be on my phone. I would just try to sit there and like really connect to myself. So I guess it was like a meditation time, except for because I was actually doing something, I guess it was like an active meditation. So I'm actually standing in the shower, and I would just really take the time to breathe and to feel the skin, like the water on my skin, and what can I see and what can I hear and what can I feel, what can I smell and things like that, and just really take time to like be mindful. And those were really great times for me to like be practicing my meditation or mindfulness without actually being like, right, I'm taking 10 minutes or 20 minutes to meditate. I was already doing something, so I would use that time to be mindful. And you can also do that like hanging up the washing, or making breakfast, or something where you're already kind of doing this monotonous, whatever the word is, this kind of repetitive task that you've done plenty of times, you know what to do, you don't really need to think about it. Those are the perfect chances to use mindfulness and to make it like a practice where you're really just tuning into yourself, and you're trying to really pick up on like the subtleties in your body and things like that. Now that my baby is a year old, now that my little girl is a year old, I have been able to start making time during her naps to do yoga and meditation / visualization. Now I definitely still do not do 20-minute meditations a day, but I do love to do like yoga. I really am enjoying yoga with Adrienne. She has some awesome videos, and if you kind of really listen to the way that she talks about breathing and tapping into your inner body and your energetic body and things like that, then they can be really fantastic ways of like spiritual practice for connecting to your soul and things like that. So I do try to make time for those every day now, and sometimes I'm doing it at 10 o'clock at night, but I feel like that they are something that, one, it's not only exercise, but also it's a spiritual practice, and it's self-love time, because it's time for just me, and I really, really value and appreciate those times. And sometimes it means that I'm going to bed later than I should in order to do it. However, it all kind of balances itself out, because I do feel like it really nourishes my soul to do that and make time for that. So this is probably a very random video that's kind of doesn't have much flow to it, so I apologize, but this was just kind of like the thoughts going through my head. I wanted to share about how I have, in like this past year of motherhood, been able to upkeep a spiritual practice and to grow my spiritual practice. I feel like definitely in the last month or two, that my spiritual growth has gone forward in leaps and bounds, and there's lots of reasons for this, because I am now making time to do yoga and meditation and visualization every day. I have been reading since she was a newborn. I have read a book almost every month, or actually listened to a book every month, like an audio book, and that has helped tremendously. And I have also just started practicing like the law of attraction and stuff in my everyday life a lot more, and it's really made a huge difference for me. So I wanted to just kind of talk about briefly how I have been upkeeping my spiritual practice. If you guys have any of your own tips, or you want to share how you implement spiritual practice in your daily life as a mum, whether that's like praying, or if you include it with your children, or what do you do, I would love to read your experiences in the comment section below. And yeah, that is pretty much it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you are new, don't forget to subscribe. I do post videos every Wednesday, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye!